This video will show you how to do a quick doodle of a piece of pumpkin pie using Prismacolor Scholar colored pencils, but you can use any brand that you have. If you love learning about art, hit that subscribe button and support this public school teacher's side hustle. First, I'm going to sketch the basic shape of the pie using an orange colored pencil. I am drawing on Canson Mi Tientes paper, and this is perfect for pastels, charcoal, and of course, colored pencils. It really helps your colors pop. Make sure to look at an image of pumpkin pie. How great if you had one in front of you in real life, but a Google search will do. I prefer to draw with the actual colored pencils. I'm using Copenhagen blue here for the whipped cream because the graphite from a regular pencil is just really hard to get rid of. Then I'm gonna go in with that same orange and I'm going to blend a nice orange, just very light base color on the top and the edge of the pie. Pumpkin pie is always a little darker on top because the oven is, putting more heat, and so that's kind of a nice like brownish orange. And then the inside of the pumpkin pie is gonna be a nice kind of yellow orange color. Speaking of yellow, I'm gonna go back in with yellow and blend that together to give it a really nice kind of cohesive look. I'll revisit my base color of orange to blend that together as well. So blending with colored pencils, it's not like you do it just one time. There's a lot of back and forth to get the colors to have that nice blend and that relationship that they need, and for the dominant color to show through. And sometimes colors can overtake each other, and a nice blending, like going back to yellow here, can help each color have its voice. Back to yellow here to give yellow its moment. And then I'm going to take that same Copenhagen blue. I really love this color. It's nice and it is so dark that it creates a really nice shadow, as you see me adding here. I will be using a very limited color palette, which is the fun thing about colored pencils, is you can use just the primary and secondary colors and make a beautiful work of art. So I'm looking at where the dark edges would be on the pie, adding a little bit of a shadow, and luckily this toned paper has done a lot of the work for me. So I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow, and you can see I'm pressing down so very lightly. Now it's time for white, which is my absolute favorite, and I'm going to focus first on the edge of the pie where that will be lighter in color and value. So I'm blending that orange and yellow together, and it's making just a beautiful pumpkin pie filling look. I'm going to add some to the top as well because, believe it or not, pumpkin pie, even though it's darker here, does have a little bit of a shine. And so the white's really good for highlights. It's very good for blending. And then, of course, the whipped cream is almost all white. Let's go back to orange and key this down a little bit. Again, I want it to be orange. Just don't want it to be as light as the other part of the pumpkin pie. Now let's put a little bit of orange in the crust as well, which I'll go back and blend those colors a little bit as well. Doing a little bit more shading, some shadow work to make sure each part of the pie looks separate. So the crust is separate from the filling and the filling is separate from the top, all of that good stuff. And I'm blending lightly and layering on all of my colors. I really love this dark brown, and I'll be using this as well to give that natural kind of crust-like shadow effect. And I'm gonna swipe a little bit here in the shadow as well. And the key to successful color blending is lots and lots of light layers. If I press down too hard, the paper gets saturated with one color and it's harder to really blend and create that dynamic color. Once I get a nice layer of that dark brown, I want to warm up the top of the pie a little bit, and I'm going to take red and blend that in to give it a nice warmth, to make it pop, and just to kind of get my color scheme a little bit more rich. I'm using all warm colors here, right? So red, orange, and yellow are very blendable. They're all friends. They're all in the same family, so it's a really natural choice. I'm going to put a little bit in the edge here because although the pie is lighter, or the pie center than the top, it's still made from the same material. So I want it to have a nice unified color scheme, even if there are variations within. Now with orange, I am softening that red to make it keyed down a little bit because the pumpkin pie is mainly orange. And so I'm toning it down, getting that orange back in there. And then I'll go back in with yellow to do the same. So as you can see, layers and layers and layers of light blending. Let's add a little bit of yellow in the crust as well. And back to my absolute favorite, the white, where I can then blend these colors together to make a lighter variation that gives it a really beautiful tan crust color and just that pumpkin pie filling that I love so much. Now I'm doing in a circular motion a blending technique over the crust. Look how light and food-like it looks. Going back to add a shadow and that Copenhagen blue, look how it pops with the Cool Whip or the whipped cream. Beautiful. I love using white, especially on a toned paper like this because it just pops. You can do this on white paper too, but when you use a toned paper, it takes care of some of those mid-tones for you. And look at how this Copenhagen blue reacts with the warm color scheme and contrast to make a really beautiful shadow. Brown makes a good shadow too, but there's something about blue against a warm color scheme that I just love. Looking here to see where else I could put shadows. I don't want to overdo it, but the pie is sitting on something, so I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow underneath. Then I'm going to lightly fan it out as if there's a cast shadow, kind of, it's not sitting on a plate or anything, but that there's a cast shadow from the pie, and I'm going to use the blue in just a few places to make sure I'm happy with that effect. Blending the blue in the Cool Whip again, you can see that kind of gives it a nice fade. A little bit more white in the crust, a little bit more white in the pie filling, just to give it that nice 3D, really blended look. Now for a little bit more brown in the shadow, so it looks a little real. So I'm blending the brown into the blue to give it a nice, really dark shadow. Notice I didn't use black at all. Black can be a tempting color, but sometimes it can muddy up your color scheme. So using brown, a blue, or a color complement is the trick to making your artwork look really nice and not muddy. Really working on those edges. And you can see I'm so softly blending, you can barely tell I'm doing it. So a little bit more texture in the pie crust. I love how a pie crust has those like individual little areas. So much fun to draw. I love drawing food. It's one of my favorite subjects. I'm gonna put a little bit of a harsher shadow where the pie is meeting whatever surface it's sitting on, because this is just a doodle. It's not really sitting on anything. A little bit more shadow under the Cool Whip. And because I love this white on the toned paper so much, I'm going to add a little bit of white, fanning the shadow out, and then I'm going to do kind of a halo effect with white around the whole piece of pie. And that's just a fun choice I made to make the pie pop even more on the paper. And look how fun it is to use white and then not press down all the way, so you can see that beautiful toned paper and the texture that it has within and behind your drawing. Food is one of my favorite subjects of all time, and I just love creating little doodles, drawings, and paintings of pumpkin pie. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me, and if you're interested in more tutorials, check these out. Find me on Instagram at thatartteacher_Machado, and my website, thatartteacher.com, has full-length lesson plans, student examples, and tutorials for home, school, or whatever your artistic situation is.